What's up, dudes? HW, will you knock off the budget, the Temu Eric Johnson stuff? Hey, man, you don't get better if you don't practice. You know what I'm saying? You don't get better if you don't try to just, you got to try stuff. You know what I mean? You got to try stuff. You got to go, hey, that lick's good. Hey, that lick, not as good. Hey, that's kind of like a lick he does. It's not as fast as he does it, not as clean as he does it. But I bet if I keep playing that lick, you know, really try to get it. Whoops, you totally botched that one. That's all right. Just move on, you know? Just move on. You could edit them out. You could. But you don't have to. All right, well, hello there. My name is HW. Thanks so much for watching Tone Junkie TV. You saw the title of the video. It's a beautiful afternoon in Nashville, so I figured, you know what? Why not just, let's talk about something controversial for once, you know? Quit going with all the, what's with everybody playing it so safe, you know what I mean? Let's just talk about it. Which modeler should you buy in 2025? That's a good question. I'm playing a Tone Master Pro right now, which you can probably see the signal chain right here. Check this out. You know, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. That's a great tone. Look, we're living in this age. This is why I busted out the Tone Master Pro 2. I had it out already, but look, we're living in this age where this is a very like typical rig you would see, right? And to me, it's all I really need. I mean, this is right up there with like just like, you know, best rigs you could have. You know, I'm not always the biggest twin fan, but I am a fan of a twin. I'm a fan of a big, wide open clean. You know what I'm saying? So we got a blues breaker going into a twin with some memory man, deluxe memory man. I thought they were going to call it something different. They call it deluxe memory delay. And then we got a large haul. Man, if that is wrong. If that's wrong, man, y'all pray for my repentance. You know what I mean? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. That tone is good. You throw a little tube screamer on it, and it's kind of like, it gets into this everything you need territory. Even on the bridge of a Strat, it's just... It just gets there, you know what I'm saying? And we're living in a time when you really got to split hairs. In 2025, if you want to know what the best modeler out there is, we're going to be splitting hairs. So I just want to let you know that up front. There's no way I'm going to agree with 80% of you. Why? Because this whole market, take it from a guy who's been doing this for 8 years. When I got into this market, it was Kemper and Helix. That was it. There was some people going, oh, the Boss unit this. Oh, the Johnson J station. You know where they are? They're dead. Probably. I don't know. That wouldn't be the first wrong thing you heard on the internet today. They might be alive. But that's why you always leave a note. And the other thing is, you know, you just, this market went from, are you for captures, the Kemper can capture stuff, or do you like modeling? Axe was always in there, but they really were not moving the units until just a few years ago. Until this generation of Axe products, it didn't feel to me like they were moving the units that they are now. And so they've benefited a lot from the big uplift in just like digital and modeling. I'm sure they would tell you that's the case. If not, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but I just see way more fractal stuff out in the world than I used to. It used to be this very niche thing. It was like, are you a metal player who's also an Android user who used to make custom games on your TI 82, 83, 84, 85 calculator? Yes. Have you seen the fractal? I mean, that was kind of the audience, man. And if you ask dumb questions, they would just, they would light their own units on fire and throw them at you. You know what I mean? That's how much they hated dumb questions and just, hi, I don't know anything. Right? That's fractal in a nutshell. But they make great stuff. They really do. It's just the community is absolutely toxic. Anyway, not the point of the video today. It used to be that there was Kemper and Helix, and it was like, are you for capture tech or are you for modeling? And really nothing else was doing the capture thing other than the Kemper. And now we've seen this whole wave of digital come up. We've seen just an explosion. Everyone wants a digital solution, whether they want it for their main rig or whether they recognize, hey, I'm playing with this person or that person, and they say it's got to be a silent stage, and we got a fly gig, and it's one thing, and I could, they said, they asked me, do I really need the amp? Do I really need a backline? And I can't, or I saw someone else was doing it, and man, they said they didn't have to pay for this or that, so, they asked me if I could do the gig, direct, and I could do that. I went to a church. They said I have to be direct. All these things happen in the world, and it leads people to either go, I'm going to go digital, or at the very least, it leads them to go, I need to be digital capable for when I need to do it, right? Sometimes it's time to rock, and sometimes it's time to attenuate the signal down to 0 and put in the in-ears. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I think we are as players. And so the world just has expanded in 2025. We have Tonex, we have Quad Cortex. Everyone knows that stuff, right? And so we can have some debate, which I'm going to do right here. But 80% of you are going to disagree with me because there's no way I can pick a platform and not have 80% of you disagree with me because the market has become so segmented. It went from, are you Kemper or are you Helix, to are you capture or are you modeling, or are you the big unit or the little unit? Do you want to run it with pedals or not? Are you just completely Tonex? Do you like digital at all? Yes, of course you do, because we've been buying Strymon and stuff for so long. And so it's all so segmented. And I'll tell you that because I can see the growth on the email lists that I get. I can see the emails I get from people. I can get the random requests. And now we're in the third level. The first wave of this was digital is out there. And I've made other videos where I've suggested to people, hey, I really don't think digital technology got that much better. I think players just started saying, I need to do this. And a lot of the diehards got old and are on Medicare. I think that's the truth, to be honest with you. Because if you were a 35-year-old guitar player 15 years ago, when the Kemper was like first out, you were like, I don't know about this. You're 50 today. And that means there's a whole lot of guitar players younger than you than are older than you. So when I say I think the market changed, I mean, I think the players changed. I mean, literally, I think older players aged up, and this idea that tube only, digital can't do it, has aged up also. It's largely a boomer and elder millennial and Gen X idea, and Gen Z and a lot of the younger millennials don't hold it. And a lot of the millennials don't hold it. A lot of the, I mean, hey, but you know what I'm saying? It's that group think is moving up the scale. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I honor my my gray hair on the side here, older millennial, Gen X, boomer veterans who are out there rocking and making themselves go deaf. Because Gen Z, God bless y'all with your wide leg jeans, y'all don't have the guts to lose your hearing. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. You got to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? It's no coincidence that, the generation that thought, diet pills were a good idea also deluded themselves into thinking that like we can just blast these amps all night long, all day, and your hearing will be fine. You'll be able to hear people. You know what I mean? Gen Z today is way too like, you know, what's in their zeitgeist, right? It's like, hey, that's a microaggression. That's kind of millennial. Hey, that's a microaggression. So of course, like obviously a microaggression could be that music's too loud. It's disturbing me, right? So then it makes it really hard to have a 100-watt amp because that's too loud for everyone, right? It's not even a microaggression. It's a major aggression at that point. You know what I'm saying? I'm not actually trying to be like that comical right now or unserious. I am trying to say, you see the generations change, and it's interesting their choice of amps and stuff that also changes, right? And so we have this thing now in 2025 where you have the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave, where it's like first wave, Keer Helix, second wave, we've got Quad Cortex and Tone X, and Tone X is kind of straddling the second, third wave thing. And then now we're a second wave thing. And now we're on the third wave. And what's the third wave? The third wave is what's coming next. And I'll do maybe another video on this, but it is basically the rise of the Chinese bringing in all their stuff, because AI makes it so that anybody can bring in capture tech. And so what you're going to see is more units adopting capture tech. And really what you're going to see is the rise of NAM, something called Neural Amp Modeler. And if you're unfamiliar with NAM, let me describe it this way. You know how IRs are universal? NAM will become universal in the capture world. Why? Not because all the units are going to run NAM, but all of the editors, all of the software on the computers will easily make it so you can drop in your NAM files and it will convert and train immediately to be compatible with their own files. That's what Ampero has done. That's what Hotone, Valaton, that's what that whole company has done. And now other people seem to be interested in doing that. How can I just take this NAM capture that captured an amp, and how can I bring it in and make a native copy of it so that it runs on the native architecture of copy and capture tech? I think that is the future. I really do. I think in the next iterations, we'll see some big companies say, of course, we have our own built-in thing. Here's why we think it's great. But if you have a library of NAM stuff, bring it in, and we're going to see this trend of, just like you take your IRs everywhere with you, they're yours, they're universal. We're going to see this NAM thing where it's like, we might not get totally universal, but we're going to see really, really high levels of compatibility. You release something, of course it supports NAM conversion, it supports this and that. That's my theory. So in 2025, what are we going to pick? Man, we're going to be splitting hairs, and we're going to be saying, you know, I like this better or that better or this better or that better. And so to me, it's like you want to break it down into a couple different, I think first question to ask yourself is this. Do you want, you can break it down by features, but for me, the real question is, do you want a really large expanding unit? And so that is where I think we see the men from the boys being separated. Continued support is becoming the customer service, the college diploma or the high school diploma of this world. It's no longer a question of is your unit cool? Does it sound like a real amp? Does it have lots of effects? Does it have this? Can you make it sound great in a demo? Can you stand there at NAM with some guy who doesn't really work for the company but just demo stuff and show me how there's 6 types of reverb, 10 types of delay, every type of thing you could want? We all know that. We get that. It's in every unit. Every unit has every type of sound, right? Except for the ToneMaster Pro, it's missing a dumble. Guys, can we get that going? That seems like no dumble in the ToneMaster Pro. Like, who's buying the Tone? I don't know. I would just think the people buying the ToneMaster Pro, and the people who play dumbles there's a lot of crossover in that Venn diagram, right? Or who are interested in Robin Ford and the dumble tone. If you love Fender amps, it's kind of logical that you get into the dumble world, which is why you see so many famous Fender users get into the dumble world, right? It's an evolution, a cousin, a pseudo bro. But putting all that aside, we got to like ask ourselves some questions of like, how do you want to use the unit? I think some real differentiators here is the fact that, you know, some of these units have really beautiful UI and some of them don't. I think they all sound, you know, a certain way, and they all sound like, you know, an amp. And I play that because you're going to find that sound in every modeler. It's going to be in there. It's a preset here. All I did was add the delay. You know, the delay's not in there normally, and it's just right there. And that is kind of the overarching, I think, real answer to this question is it doesn't matter what you buy in 2025. If you ask yourself, you know, do I feel like they're supporting the unit? Does it fit my workflow? You know, do I like it? Do I enjoy it? I look at some things like the ToneMaster Pro and, you know, I go, what's the best thing about the ToneMaster Pro? The best thing about the ToneMaster Pro is, to me, is the UI. Psychologically, I feel like I'm playing the real gear because it looks like the real gear. On the Helix, I feel that way less so. But the next Helix is probably going to solve that very easily. And, you know, they're probably going to do a touchscreen. And, you know, they have a lot more effects. They have a lot more stuff built out than like maybe the TMP right now. Can you go wrong with either of those units? I don't think so. I think you got to look at them though and ask yourself, I'm not ready to say like sound quality wise, one is so much better than the other in almost any of these units. You know, NAMM is regarded as the most accurate, then ToneX, then we get into like Quad Cortex, and then I don't even know if Quad Cortex or ToneX is more accurate than each other. I'm just saying. And then you know, people will say, oh, Kemper has this compression and this feel, and that's all cool, but like, I don't really think any of that stuff matters. You know what I mean? Like, you could get a deluxe and everyone could get a deluxe and everyone could recommend a deluxe, but you could have a speaker that's kind of tired in that deluxe and you could change the speaker out and it's not going to be a completely new amp, but it's going to be a new amp because it got a new speaker, you know? And like, I know this question comes up and I get this question from people, which is kind of why I'm making the video, but there's no way to answer this. I'm completely happy with my Kemper, but if you put a gun to my head and said, you can never play the Kemper again, I'd be like, why are you so hostile towards the Kemper? Like, you're threatening my life over this. It doesn't seem like a normal reaction. Like, we're all in team digital here, you know, go threaten a tube amp player. But after we had that talk, if I was coerced into never playing that Kemper again, man, I could be happy on any of these units. You know what I mean? For me, I would draw the line at like, I really want capture tech. But when I get people like, what's the best digital thing? I would ask them like, what's your normal rig? If you said to me, hey dude, I play a lot of bar gigs and I got a couple gigs where they want me to be silent and I'm just trying to recreate like my rig. I play a super or a deluxe or a plexi and a bunch of overdrives. I'd be like, you know, the ToneMaster Pro could like absolutely slay that. Like you could recreate your entire rig and it would probably be super accurate and feel right. And then you'd be done. Do you want all in one? Or do you want to get a ToneX and do you want to go completely the other way? Do you want to get a Quad Cortex and like probably have the smallest size where you could also put some pedals on a unit, but have everything in one right there? You know what I mean? Or do you want like, do you also want to replace all the switching and everything? Do you want to go Kemper? Do you want to like have a power amp in it? See, if you want a power amp and you want the option to run a cabinet ever, like a non-powered cabinet, only the Kemper does that. Only the Kemper does that. So like, what are you going to do? It's so specific because And I would really at this point liken it to driving a car where it's like, yeah, I don't know why anyone goes and drive. I've rented these cars. I'm just going to talk shit about Chevy for a minute. I have rented the Chevy Impala and is it the Cruise? No, Cruise is their software. I don't know if that medium-sized Chevy, the one that's like the size of a Corolla, and then the one that's a little larger, like it's not the Monte Carlo. There's an Impala, and then there's like a Chevy Malibu, the Malibu. I a couple times have had Malibus when I've been renting cars when I'm traveling. I do not understand the person who sits in a Chevy Malibu and says, yeah, I want to pay $30,000 plus for this. That seems like a good trade. I just don't know how to relate to that person. I don't know that they should be part of society. I think we should really question whether they should have the right to vote. And not just for the president, for like American Idol too. Because y'all are messing stuff up. Okay, seriously though, I get in that car and I go, I don't understand why anyone would buy this car new. I get why you might go, hey, I got a good deal through Hertz because it was a rental car for a lot of years. And I'm imagining that's the only way these cars end up on the market. Because I've been in a Tesla Model 3 that costs like the same amount, and I've been in a Toyota Corolla and the Scions and stuff, and I've even been in the newer Kias, and I just go, you guys, you're getting like the 9th best car in the class. And you're not even really paying less for it. And is it going to go past 175? I don't know. I see some POS Chevys out there seem to go a long time. But I think that usually that honor usually belongs to like Toyota, Honda, some of these guys, the ones who get into the 250,000-mile club, you know. Them and the older German cars, you know. My grandmother had a 73 Mercedes. Beautiful car. She put over 350,000 miles on that car before she passed. And man, those things just went forever. They went forever. There's a reason if you go to parts of like northern Africa where it's really brutal on cars in the heat in the desert, you find a bunch of 40 and 50-year-old German cars still being driven around. And it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, there's no pieces that can go obsolete on this car that we can't service and replace. So like after 50 years, you kind of might have a new car. You know what I mean? But like that engine's been taken apart and put back together and taken apart and put back together. And that's another thing that's funny about very complicated, you know, like machinery. When someone tells you there's a rebuilt engine, I've always thought this was so interesting about like engineering and mechanics. When someone tells you there's a rebuilt engine, do you ever appreciate what that means? It means that they had an engine that stopped working. And instead of figuring out what was wrong and replacing one part, because you can't, they took it apart, cleaned every piece. Sometimes they find what was wrong, and sometimes you don't. But when you put it back together, if nothing's wrong with any of the pieces, it's like a brand new engine. And that's actually a really interesting thing. That's a really interesting concept. Don't take apart any of your modeling units. That voids the warranty on every single one of them. Of that, I'm sure. So don't do that. If it stops working, you definitely want to call support. Send it in. Don't take it apart. I can't stress this enough. Do not take apart any of the modeling units we've talked about today. But anyway, back to the subject. We're in the third wave here. We're in the third wave, and modeling is so cheap at this point. And a lot of people are going to go, HW, what about the Moore unit? What about the Headrush? Headrush, I've been working on some super clones, and very soon, like in the next few weeks, next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have a Headrush release. And I'm excited about that. But it just goes to show you, when you make a list of things that are capable units that have awesome features and that I think you could be happy with and really dig, you know, that list is getting to be a dozen units long. And so it really is so specific. I don't think you can go wrong with a Kemper. I don't think you can go wrong with a Quad Cortex. If someone said to me, I got a quad cortex and I absolutely just think there's a million better units out there on the market, I think it's one of the worst units out there, I'd be like, that can't be true. That can't be your opinion, that the quad cortex is in the bottom of you know what I mean? It's too good. I think the Kemper holds up when you put it in any test. But look, if you're a person who's like, I love this beautiful UI of my Toolmaster Pro, to me, that's the opposite of the Kemper. There is no beautiful UI. You get a little editor. I mean, you get a computer editor that basically just recreates the front of your Kemper. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're gaining anything by really putting it on the computer, other than you're on the computer and you can use your mouse and keys. But it's not like a better experience in the sense of UI. You can see some more options. Helix, we've always said great editor, great UI. But honestly, when you look at Toolmaster Pro, when you look at HeadRush, and when you look at Quad Cortex, you're looking at 3 units that may have better editors. And I mean, may have better GUIs, like better GUIs. Because they kind of a little more look like the pedals that you're playing. That may be important, it may not be. It's funny, psychologically, the more I use those units, the more I feel like actually it adds to my experience, you know? And that's also why I don't really enjoy using the Axe units that much. They sound great, but dialing them in is like, you know, doing C++ on a calculator. You know, and that's fine. That's fine. Nothing again. I mean, you know, it's clearly designed by an engineer. You know what I mean? But that's also why it sounds really good. That's why sound quality is at the forefront of that unit. And then some of the graphic stuff is not at the forefront of that unit. You know, they're not Apple. You know what I mean? They're I don't know, Huawei or something. No, they're not even. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Okay. I'm an HW. I hope this has been helpful. Probably not. I hope it's been entertaining. I know I had fun.